Okay, so today we are going to study gender, politeness, and stereotypes. The question is that whether male and female uh, speak two different languages. That is, do they speak in a different way? And we have already discussed it in the previous chapter. But now we are going to study it in relevance with register, style, stereotypes, and politeness. That is, are women more polite than men, or why do they have different, choices when it comes to um, language? We are going to address these questions. That is, are women more polite than men? Are there any differences in the way women and men interact? How do we signal our gender and our sexuality through our linguistic choices? How is language used to refer to women and men? What message does the language used about women convey about their status in the community? Uh, these are the questions which we are going to discuss in this chapter, starting with women's language and confidence. We are going to talk about Robin Lecoff. She is an American linguist, and she's the one who's very prominent when it comes to the work in this gender lect. So we are going to discuss it in detail. Okay, so she argued that women use language in a way that reinforce their subordinate status, right? That is, um, the way both men and women speak different languages, and we have already discussed it in previous section, previous lecture as well. And because they consider women consider themselves as compared to men a subordinate, therefore their speech also shows on this feature, and they try to uh, collude, or they try to give the impression that they're trying to use the standard form and in order to prove that they are not from the subordinate group, that they are from a high status and they are not from the subordinate status. So this is something that women normally do. In social dialect research, which actually focuses on the differences between men and women, we have studied this example of in and ing, where in pronunciation, the females are using more in a pronunciation as compared to ing, which is mostly done by males. And in same is the case with morphological differences, or as well as syntactic differences in their communication. However, Robin Lecoff shifted the focus of the research on gender differences to syntax, semantics, and style. As we've already discussed a chapter which is related to style and register, so you'll be able to better understand this chapter now. Um, the way women speak and the way men speak, we can very easily identify, even if we don't listen to them. Like, we can identify their speech by just reading it, or as in, like mentioned in different examples over here, you can identify whether a person is a male or a female by the way they speak. It is not only the way women speak, but it is also the way the way language is used about them. That is not just the way women are using the language, but also the way language is used about them. So this is also a very important factor, and we're going to study that as well. You might have come across different researches where you'd see how language is used, or how women are represented in different novels and etc. This is where it comes. This that the language is used about them. Um, Robin Lecoff identified a number of linguistic features, which she, according to her, which she claims that are used more often by women as compared to men, which we are going to discuss in detail. And she, according to her, she expresses that it, whatever are those features are expressing uncertainty and lack of confidence. So the all the features which are mentioned here, all the features that women are using in their conversation, all those features in themselves are representative of uncertainty and lack of confidence. And I'll give you an example of tag questions. Like women normally use tag questions in their conversation. That is, in Urdu we say hai na, or trying to confirm again and again, things that they're trying to confirm again and again. So these are the features which we are going to discuss. Okay, if you read this example, example number 2, that is a lawyer. This example is where we have witness A and we have witness B. And um, a lawyer is asking the same question from witness A as well as from witness B. The way they answers um, is very different. Like if you see witness A, so the speech of the two female witnesses in example 2 contrast in that witness A uses features of what Lecoff labeled and as women language, while witness B does not. Now, if you look at this example and read this example, that is what was the nature of your acquaintance with the late Mrs. E.D., right? And we discuss in detail that women try to use these features of well, and um, these um, these fillers or pragmatic markers or very, close, or words like these. We're going to discuss in detail, and then we're going to come back to this example. Okay, so these are the features of women's language. Now, according to Lecoff, females try to use lexical hedges or fillers. That is, sort of, well, you see. They use these fillers, and they use hedges. With fillers, we can also have or these words right, HMM and UMM, or these kind of words, or the way you express yourself with these types of words. These are fillers, right? And we also have hedges. Hedges are the part of pragmatics as well, and they are normally used for in order to express these are some those kind of utterances which are used by the speakers to explain their own utterances beforehand. In that is when you are see when you're using or um, in a way that um, like, or you say uh, or you say words um, like I don't know if it is important, but and then you go ahead, or you say I may be mistaken, or I'm not sure about this, but these kinds of phrases or words are used as Hedges. You already know about tag questions, what are tag questions and why those tag questions are used. We're going to discuss in detail. Rising intonations on declaratives, that is, it's really good. This is how they speak. You'll not never see a man or a male speaking in this way. But females or women, according to Lakoff, they use these rising intonations. And the kind of adjectives that they use, they are very, they use empty adjective, that is cute, charming, divine. These kinds of uh, adjectives are mostly used by females as compared to males. Um, I wanted to explain one more thing. Like for example, in like in our context here, you have never heard a male saying AWW when there's a picture of a kid or something cute is happening. You'll never listen to a male saying that, but you'll observe that all the females are using this word. So even in text messages and also in in usual conversations as well. So certain features are very peculiar or very much associated with with women as compared to males. They also use very precise colors. Like men are not aware of all the colors, but females try to use all very precise colors when they are communicating or when they are referring to colors. Intensifiers, as I've already given you example in the witness A, that witness A was saying very close friend. So intensifiers are normally used by females a lot. Hypercorrect grammar. When you're hypercorrecting grammar, so in that case, you believe that that grammar structure is correct. You only believe that, though it is a wrong belief, but still you pronounce that in that way, and still you use that in that way. So, for example, we have this word genre, but because there is this wrong idea or concept that genre is the correct pronunciation. However, it's not. So this is somewhere where it comes not hyper correct grammar, but hyper correct pronunciation. So I hope the concept of hypercorrection is clear to you all here. So in that case, they use um, uh, they hypercorrect as well. They use super polite forms. That is, they go for indirect requests or euphemisms as well, and they avoid the avoidance of strong swear words. You never see women using very strong words. Like they'll always use milder words, or they will use euphemistic swearing. That is, they'll change the words of swears. Like instead of saying my God, they say my goodness or my gosh or something like that. So they change. Emphatic stress, they also use um, stress. I've already discussed it, but like emphatic stress is when you stress a particular word or even phrase in any sentence, including communication, where you feel that it has to be emphasized, or for clarity, or for creating a specific meaning. So when you say it was a brilliant performance, so you're trying to stress on that specific word, and you'll see that females or women, they have this feature that in their communication. That was what Lekov uh, claimed, that these were the um features which are associated with the females communication, and you'll find all these in females communication. However, there were certain questions raised on her research, and that was that all the in her study, all the participants were educated. They were university students. Like they were, the conditions were not natural conditions. We've already discussed it in interview, uh, that these were not natural conditions. So obviously these are certain factors which might change the conversation, or change the communication, or change all these factors in the in the research. um, uh, they are like there was this one point as well, that is, without a theoretical framework, because she had no theoretical framework at that time. So without a theoretical framework, it is a bit difficult to identify that all these features were there, because it was her own study. So she was criticized for that. However, if you look at her study, there are two things that we like. It can be divided into two groups, or in two things, and that is, one group is where there are certain features which are used for in women's language that she had identified. We can use those features which are used for hedging, or and for reducing the force of an utterance, right? In order to reduce the force of an utterance, those are certain features, right? But then there are others which are called as boosting devices. That is, those features will which may boost or intensify a proposition's force. Any proposition is anything that the person is saying, or the female is saying. So the features are divided into hedging devices and the boosting devices. Okay. Lekov argued that in both cases, whether it is the boosting devices, or whether it is hedging devices, in all those features signal lack of confidence in women, in women, and in women's speech. Even boosting devices are used to are used because the speaker feels that the addressee will not be convinced, or will not listen to them, or they believe that they are inferior, or they believe that maybe they don't have a lot of knowledge, and that is why when they are saying something, they try to convince the other person, and for that they use boosting devices. And they use some they use these devices to supply some extra reassurance, and that is why those intensifying devices are used. That is in order to persuade their addressees for something that they are saying, or maybe to convince them, or maybe to reassure them. And these both, according to her, both these hedging devices, or the intensifying, or the boosting devices, both are used for the same, both signal lack of confidence in women. However, in um, other studies, women are reported as using um, more tech questions than, like, the different studies were conducted after Lakoff has conducted this study. But research was giving different results everywhere. In some studies, women were reported using more tech questions than men, and while in others, men used more tech questions than women. Then this feature was something which was against what Lakoff was saying. So it was completely opposite, or contrary to the results of Lakoff, where Lakoff was saying that females use more tech questions as compared to men, whereas in some studies, men were using more tag questions as compared to females. Same was the case with the hedges as well, because as it was reported by Lekoff, that women use more hedges. So the some studies reported that women were using more hedges. That was 3 times more than men. However, in other studies, it was claimed that they don't there was no gender differences in based on hedges, that they were both were using equal hedges. So these are differences which were there in the speech, you know other than Lakoff's. Then there was another study in which the researcher recorded the speech of witnesses in a law court and found that male witnesses used more women's language, as compared to women witnesses who were, you know, using different features of the language, not as the women's language, that is maybe more hedges, less hedges, or men were using more hedges, and men were using more tag questions. If you read this example, you can pause the video and read this example properly, and you'll see that a lot of features are that of females, but it was a male witness who was using all these hedges and boosters. So if you see this conversation, you'll see that all these are used the way female uses the language. See, I can't really, or a very, very loud, right? Very, very. See, terrifically. All these words, like these are mostly these all features are associated with females, with females communication, or a women's language, but the witness C is actually a male who is using this conversation in a law court. Okay, so now our next section is about Lakoff's linguistic features as politeness devices. So the same features of Lakoff's linguistic features can also be associated with the politeness devices as well. Okay, so if you look at this example, or if you look at tag questions, you'll see that tag questions, as Lakoff said, that they show uncertainty, or but sometimes these tag questions are used not only for the referential purpose, that is because you are uncertain about something and you are trying to ask a question. For example, in Pashto or in Urdu, we say Hana when we ask something, and we again and again say Hana, or we ask the tag questions. And but those tag questions are not just for the referential purpose, but sometimes they are also used for the affective purpose as well. And in such cases, even men can use those, or they are used for not just for the purpose of referential or affective, but they also may function as used for the politeness devices. So when you are saying something and you want to decrease the emotional force of that, you try to use tag questions and you try to make it more polite. And it is possible for the men to use the same as well. So but we believe that females are normally more polite, and that is why they use tag questions. If you keep this in your mind, that a male student is asking a question from a teacher, right? You'll see uh, you'll see difference in the way that student is communicating. So if, for example, my male student is talking to me or communicating to me, and he or she is asking a question, and they try to communicate. For example, Omar is asking a question, and Omar is states something and then says that, is it like that, or is it something like that, and then is a tag question, and he uses tag question. It doesn't mean that Umar is using females characteristic, because it is a part of the language, and tag questions are used by both males and females equally. However, it varies according to Holmes, Janet Holmes. It varies because this book is of Janet Holmes. So according to her, it varies, because if you see that even teachers, like, we are using uh, tag questions a lot, even if the teachers are male or if the teachers are female, regardless of their gender, they are using tag questions. So for example, if a teacher is communicating with a student, if the teacher is male even, they'll be using tag questions to make things uh, more easy for the students, or to make them understand, or even they'll be using those stress on different words, so that the students are getting what the teacher is saying, even if the teacher is a male teacher. So the teacher is using, or as mentioned over here, that teachers, interviewers, or hosts at parties in general, they or those in leadership roles, they are using those tag questions to facilitate their facilitate people, like the ones you are communicating with. A tag question may also be used to soften a directive, or uh, criticism. If you're criticizing someone and you want to make it a little mild, you use tag question, right? So when you're criticizing someone and you're talking, let's suppose, let me give you, or you can read this example as well. Can use this you read this example, or I can give you another example. Like, for example, you're talking to your friend, and there's someone who's passing by, and you try to comment on the way they are, let's suppose, dressed, or maybe their coat, or maybe something else, and you say, do you think that don't you think that this coat is not very complimentary, or is not complimenting the dress, isn't it? And you're actually posing a, you have already commented, but you are trying to make it more soften, or you're trying to make it more polite, by asking the person, or you're trying to take uh, you know it can be referential as well. You're trying uh, to take assurance, or for the reassurance, you are using that tag question. So tag questions can be used for different purpose and for multiple reasons. It is not just that females are using it for only females are using these tag questions. uh, Tag questions may also be used as confrontational or coercive devices. If you look at example number 9, where a police officer is actually interviewing a detective constable and is criticizing the constable's performance, in that he is using tag questions. Don't you? Right? And even this, the way okay is employed towards the end of the construction, you can see it very well, the way it is used. So though the police constable, or the policeman is actually the uh, authoritative and also man, but still it is used by them. So it's not necessary that only females are using it in their communication, but um, males are also using it for different purposes, because tag questions are used for different purposes. Tag questions are used for different reasons. There was a study conducted in which uh, there were the patterns found in 60 100,000 word 60,000 word corpus, which containing equal amount of male and female speech collected in a range of matched context, that is similar context. The contexts were not different. So if the context was of court, the same was for the female, the same was for the male participants as well, and equal participants were there in the study. The results were very surprising. Surprising because women and men used you know uh, for different functions. Women use them for emphasis, and uh, then men on the polite or effective functions of the tags, whereas men use them for uncertainty, which was against what or contrary to what Lakoff said. Lakoff said that females are using tag questions because they are because of uncertainty. However, it was males who were using it for the uncertainty in this study. If you look at this table, you'll see that for expressing uncertainty, facilitative, softening, confrontational, we can see that overall tag questions are used more by the females, but uh, for expressing uncertainty, males used it more as compared to females. However, for facilitative purposes, women have used it more as compared to men. And for the softening purposes, women has used it. Women have used it less as compared to men. So we can see that overall the use of tag questions by females are comparatively more as compared to males, but the reason why they are using is completely different. Same was the case with same is the case with the hedges as well. That is, it's not necessary that all the hedges are used for the same purpose. Hedges are used for different purposes in different contexts. They are different in they mean different things according to their pronunciation, their position, the way they are in the utterance, whether they are coming in the beginning or whether they are coming towards the end, whether they are those hedges are in the middle of the utterance, and uh, what kind of speech act they are modifying. You have already studied speech act in a discourse analysis, so what do I mean by speech act. So what kind of speech act they are modifying, and who is using them, to whom, in what context. So even the context is responsible, the participants are also responsible. According to that, it would change. Also, hedges are used for politeness as well. It's not necessary that only this only tags are used for politeness. Sometimes hedges are also used for politeness as well. So concluding all these, we can say that there are many features that women are using in their communication, in their conversation. Even the colors that they are using in their conversation, they are mostly using it for positive politeness and for expressing solidarity and for being polite, and not just because they are uncertain. Secondly, it's not just like one thing which is responsible for using tags or hedges. There are many other factors which are necessary to look at when you are analyzing these features in women's and men's communication, or in any research. When you're looking at these features, um, you have to look at the way these are to these all those factors, that is, to the social distance factor, to the culture factor, to the social role, to the formality of the context. You have to look at all these features when you are looking at any any feature of a women's speech or men's. So if you are looking at a swear word which is used, which is not used by a female but is used by a male, so this may be the reason that in certain cultures it is, forbidden for a female to use such language, or in certain in certain contexts they are so angry that they are using it, using such harsh swear words, and then you label it as, a female is using swear word. So um, this this varies depending on all these factors as well, and which we are going to discuss. Okay, what we are going to study right now, and the points that we are going to study is all based on English speaking Western communities. So you have to keep this thing in your mind that we are not talking about here in Pakistani context, but we are talking about English speaking Western communities. So there were studies when we can see that overall women are using more politeness devices than men, but it is a very interesting fact that men use far fewer politeness strategies or devices when they are forms to each other than to women. That is, when a man is talking to a man, they use less politeness devices or politeness features, politeness forms, as compared to when they are talking to a female. So if you are studying something, and you are or you are conducting a research, and you are a male participant, or you are a female participant who is taking interview from a male participant, and then based on that you say that a male participant is more polite as compared to a female participant because a male is using politeness devices and using tag questions more, because they are using it for the reason because they want to be polite to you, because you are a female who's taking interview. So obviously your result is going to be colored because you are a female participant. So this is something that you have to keep in your mind, and these are the factors which are responsible, and these are the factors which influence the way men or women in any communication are or in any interaction they are using the words, the choice of the words, hedges or tag questions or colors, or all these things, or rising intonations, etc. Male talk to males was relatively plain and unmodified. It's like they don't modify it a lot, and they use relatively plain conversation as compared to um, females. Interestingly, men's talk is in any community, men in that community, men's talk, it was something which was unusual to that variety, whereas female talk, the way women were talking, those were considered as norms almost in every context by everyone. This shows that they use formal form of the language, that they are using the formal forms. So more formal and standard forms are used by the females or by the women, and this shows that they are uh, like same will be followed by the males as well, because male can also use a formal language as well. In certain times they use formal language. So then we say that they are using the features of female. No, it's not the case, but they are being formal. uh, it may also depend on the status as well. That is, for example, in a study, and it was revealed that female women who were enjoying high status, they were not using such politeness devices because they believed that they were entitled not to use politeness devices, as compared to men who were not enjoying a good status in a society. So females who were enjoying good status in a society were using were using were not using these politeness devices, were and and even men who were from high status, they were also not using those politeness devices. So both female and men from a higher society, they were using negative politeness devices expressing social distance. However, both male and female from lower classes, they were using politeness devices, something which is associated with the status and role, which is the part of interaction patterns and the kind of meaning that you're trying to convey through your communication, which is associated with the participants as well. Okay, coming towards stereotypical, features which are associated with the women is interaction. We, as human beings and in our society as well, we all believe that women are more talkative as compared to men, and we have heard a lot of um, um, proverbs and different sayings about women's being very talkative. But most of the research evidence points out the other way. That is, in some range of the context, they have studied that if you look at the television interviews or staff meetings or conferences or discussions where you believe that your interaction and the way you talk is going to increase your status, men would always try to speak more as compared to females. And you'll see that females in our, even if you're sitting in a class, you'd see that females will not talk more, but men would. Even if you see where it's trying to impress someone, that is in conferences or in meetings, you'll see that a male is communicating more as compared to female, even if females have a lot of points to share, but still they would try to be more docile and silent as compared to men, but men would communicate more as compared to females. So this is something which is a stereotypical idea of about women, that they are more talkative as compared to men. And you can see these women's tongues are like lamb's tails. Like, these are something, they are never still. So these are some things that are very famous, but it's something which is research shows something completely opposite. Same is the case with the interruptions as well. In interruptions, a study was conducted, and it was recorded in public places, in shops and coffee bars. And um, the study uh, uh, showed that in same gender interactions, interruptions were pretty even distributed between the speakers. That is, if male is talking to male or a female is talking to female, so interruptions are same, equal. But in cross gender, that is, if a male is talking to female and female is talking to male, male and female talking to one another, opposite genders talking to one another, interactions, almost all the interruptions were made by males. So this shows that not just this is a stereotypical idea that always females are the one who are going to interrupt the communication or conversation or interaction, but it is actually male who is doing it more as compared to females. The study was replicated once again. That is, the study was conducted once again, and this time it was conducted in a lab. The percentage of the male interruptions decreased to 75% in this less natural setting. So this shows that in natural setting, in true sense, males are interrupting more as compared to females. But in a observed setting where they believe that they were being observed or tested, so they didn't interrupt. Even even in all sorts of conversations, that is, between parents and children, and uh, fathers are the ones who are interrupting the most, as compared to mothers. So this shows that men are interrupting more as compared to females, which is not believed. So it is something which is opposite in the belief. We believe that females interrupt more as compared to males. So in depending on the feedback, it is also believed that women are more cooperative in conversation as compared to men, and that is shown in a study in which they studied the positive feedback or the noises that people normally make when it is noises like when either you are on the call or when you are communicating with maybe when you are communicating with someone face to face. So uh, it was uh, it was um, it was revealed through the study that women use 4 times more supportive feedback as compared to men. So if you're talking to a female, the female would be saying and but if you're talking to a male, the male would not be, you will not have any kind of or very less supportive feedback. Similarly, when females, another researcher found out that when females are in communication, you'll see that in students who are females, as compared to male students, you'll see that females would agree with the point, any point of the one who's interacting, and the female students will enlarge the point, that is, would add to the point which is told to them, rather than a male student who would rather prefer to challenge the point and would rather go against the point. So this is something which shows that females are more cooperative in conversation as compared to males. Okay, it was also found in different researchers that it was not gender which was responsible for these interruptions or communication, but it was actually the occupational status, the social class, or the other social factors which were responsible for different types of communication that they were having, or interruptions, or not being positive, or being not being not using positive politeness devices, and rather than using negative politeness devices, and all these features. However, it was found that women doctors were consistently interrupted by their patients. However, when they were male doctors, the male doctors did most of the interrupting when it comes to their patients. Or and another study of women in business organization showed that women who were bosses, they still did not dominate the interactions that they were having, or the communication that they were having. But the males who were not even dominant, they were communicating, and they were more dominant in their communication, uh, even if they were bosses, or they were not the boss, they were subordinate. So these are something which is related to the society, and if you look at these factors, you need to explain those factors. And in order to explain those factors in relevance with our society, you need to conduct a study. You can conduct a study which could be a very good study when it comes to these factors, and you can analyze them in different contexts, like taking a business context and then analyzing it. It would be a very good research. So all these interactions depend on socialization and acculturation. Acculturation patterns are those patterns that you learn in a society. So when we are kids, right from the beginning, we are asked not to interrupt. So if the brother is speaking, then it's fine, even if the brother is the youngest. But still the brother is allowed to speak. But if it's a female who is they are not allowed uh, to interrupt.
You are female, you should not interrupt. So these are some things which are the part of socialization and acculturation, and you learn these things with the passage of time. You have learned with the acculturation, you have learned that um, females use more polite language. The girls are not supposed to swear, but if a boy swears, they all laugh. So these are the things which are learned through the passage of time, and we learn those patterns, and we learn those patterns of a language uh, through socialization. um, there's another thing which is gossip. And gossip is described as any kind of relaxed talk that you are having between any two people, but they are normally in informal in informal context, right? The way women, we have already discussed what are the features of women's speech, and you'll find those features in gossips as well. You'll see that women's gossip is characterized by a number of linguistic features of women's language, which are already described above. That is, they express feelings as more often with the qualifiers, and and with the intensifiers, that is very, very, and using words which are different kinds of adjectives. And they use facilitative tags very frequently, and they encourage others to comment and contribute to whatever they are speaking, that is through tag questions. Moreover, they will try to complete the utterances of what the other person is saying. You'll see it in conversations that when women are there in communication, they'll try to complete the sentence of the other person, and they will agree frequently. They'll express that they are agreeing frequently with well, using different kinds of feedbacks, like yes, I agree, or exactly, such kind of words. But you will not see this happening when males are communicating. So women's gossips focuses predominantly on personal experiences and personal relationship, on personal feelings. Whereas when it comes to men, they mostly communicate they mostly communicate about knowledge. Their like the function of women's communication is more effective as compared to males, which is rather referential. So it men usually communicate because they have something referential to talk about. So men would always be talking about how much information do they have. You see them talking about politics all the time, and the reason is that they want to communicate the information that they have. As compared to females, they'll always be talking about family matters. They'll be talking about their kids. They'll be talking about their feelings. Someone said something to them and they are hurt, or something like that. So they always prefer to talk about personal experiences and personal relationship when it comes to communication. However, males, when they are communicating, their gossips are mostly about referential, that is information, whatever information that they are sharing. They mostly reinforce their shared values. They try to focus on what they are saying is right. This is something also with males communication. And with men, men provide conflicting accounts of the same event. They argue about a range of topics, and the features of their communication is that they argue about things, and even when they are gossiping, and they like they would disagree, and they would also change topics abruptly. Another feature of their gossips is that they use verbal abuse a lot, and it's very common in their communication. Though it's not necessary that they are using it for the negative purpose, but they just use um, verbal abuse a lot. Um, this is for um, this is here we conclude it. And these are the differences that we have studied so far, that is even feedback. And research has some kind of uh, ambiguity over here, that is, some researchers say something and some researchers say the other thing. However, they have neglected a very important point of society, of context, in when they were identifying those features. So overall, you can say that generalized ideas or stereotypical ideas are there, but there are certain things which influence these features as well, and you have to keep those things in your mind when you are conducting any research. Thank you.